The beast of the Pampas, Argentina's ancient terror that haunted sunset villages. Welcome to Tales Labyrinth, your gateway to the ancient world's most captivating mysteries and forgotten legends. Today we present the beast of the Pampas, Argentina's ancient terror that haunted sunset villages. Join us as we unravel this chilling tale from centuries past, where reality and legend intertwined on Argentina's endless plains. Support our channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing these remarkable stories with fellow history enthusiasts. Stay with us until the very end to discover the shocking truth behind this ancient mystery. Let us begin our journey into the heart of darkness that once gripped the Pampas. First, the sunset omen. The ancient Pampas stretched endlessly beneath vast skies, where indigenous peoples had thrived for countless generations before foreign settlers arrived seeking new lands. These grasslands provided everything necessary for survival: abundant wildlife, fresh water sources, and protection from enemies hidden within the tall, swaying grasses. Villages dotted the landscape, constructed from adobe bricks, wooden frames, and thatched roofs that withstood the fierce winds howling across the plains. Families gathered each evening around communal fires, sharing stories passed down through generations, while children listened with wide-eyed wonder and fascination. The elders spoke of ancient spirits inhabiting the land, protectors and destroyers alike, beings that demanded respect from those who walked these sacred territories. These tales were not mere entertainment, but essential teachings that governed behavior, established boundaries, and explained the inexplicable forces shaping their world. One particular autumn, when the grasses turned golden and the air carried the scent of approaching winter storms, something changed in the atmosphere. The animals behaved strangely, migrating earlier than usual, fleeing westward as though pursued by invisible predators no human eyes could detect or comprehend. Birds that normally filled the skies with song fell silent, their absence creating an eerie vacuum that unsettled even the bravest warriors. The horses grew restless, refusing to graze in certain areas, their ears flattening against their heads whenever the wind shifted direction. Village shamans performed divination rituals, reading patterns in smoke, interpreting dreams, and consulting with the spirits through sacred ceremonies conducted under moonlight. Their conclusions were unanimous and terrifying. Something ancient had awakened, something that had slumbered beneath the earth for generations beyond counting memory. As the sun descended on that fateful evening, painting the sky in shades of crimson and purple, the first witness emerged screaming. Young Huenu, a shepherd boy tending his family's flock near the eastern boundaries, had encountered something that would forever alter their understanding. Second, tracks in ancient earth. Huenu arrived at the village gate as darkness fell, his clothing torn and muddy, his eyes wide with terror that no words could adequately convey. He collapsed before the council of elders, gasping for breath, pointing repeatedly toward the eastern grasslands where his sheep lay scattered and slaughtered. The warriors assembled immediately, lighting torches soaked in animal fat, gathering their weapons: wooden spears tipped with sharpened stone, bows carved from hardy wood, and shields constructed from layered hide stretched across wooden frames. They moved cautiously through the darkness, following the boys' directions toward the killing ground. What they discovered defied all previous experience and knowledge accumulated over generations of hunting every creature inhabiting the Pampas Plains and surrounding territories. The sheep had been torn apart with tremendous force, their bodies scattered across a wide area as though flung by a giant. But more disturbing than the carnage were the tracks pressed deep into the soft earth, marks unlike any known animal species recorded. 3 massive toes ending in claws longer than a man's hand, each print sinking nearly a foot into the ground under incredible weight. The warriors measured the stride between prints, discovering a distance that suggested a creature standing taller than 2 men, moving with speed. They followed the trail eastward, where it disappeared into a rocky outcrop, honeycombed with caves unexplored for generations due to superstition. Returning to the village before dawn, the warriors reported their findings to the assembled community gathered in the central plaza, anxiously awaiting news. Panic spread quickly as mothers clutched their children, elders muttered ancient prayers, and young warriors argued for immediate action against the threat. The chief, a weathered man named Nahuel who had led the tribe through droughts, conflicts, and hardships, called for calm and strategic thinking. He ordered the village fortified, guards doubled, livestock brought within protective boundaries, and messengers sent to neighboring settlements warning of the danger. Third, village terror and survival. Days passed in tense anticipation as the community adapted to their new reality of constant vigilance and fear permeating every aspect of daily life. Women no longer ventured to distant water sources alone, always traveling in groups accompanied by armed warriors maintaining watchful surveillance all around. The normal rhythm of agricultural life was disrupted as farmers abandoned outlying fields, concentrating their efforts on gardens within the village perimeter. Children who once played freely in the grasslands now remained confined behind wooden palisades hastily constructed to provide additional protection and security. Each sunset brought renewed anxiety as families gathered inside their dwellings, barring doors reinforced with additional timber and keeping weapons within easy reach. The communal fires that once fostered social bonding and cultural transmission now served primarily as warning beacons against encroaching darkness, concealing unknown horrors. The beast struck again on the seventh night, this time attacking a neighboring settlement located 3 hours' walk to the southwest across rolling hills. Survivors who fled to Nahuel's village described a creature moving with impossible speed, appearing suddenly from the twilight shadows without warning or sound. They spoke of eyes that glowed like coals in the darkness, reflecting torchlight with an unnatural amber radiance that paralyzed victims with primal fear. The beast's roar, they claimed, was unlike anything in nature. Part growl, part scream, reverberating through the chest and turning blood cold. 5 people had been killed in that attack, their bodies bearing wounds that suggested immense strength and savagery beyond any predator's capabilities. The survivors had abandoned their homes completely, carrying only what they could manage, seeking refuge and protection among Nahuel's more defensible settlement. The combined communities now numbered over 200 souls, straining resources and creating tensions as strangers integrated into established social structures under crisis conditions. Food stores depleted rapidly, water became scarce, and the constant fear eroded morale, breeding suspicion and conflicts among frightened people. Fourth, the hunt begins. Nahuel convened a war council comprising the most experienced hunters, bravest warriors, and wisest shamans to devise a strategy for confronting the beast. They could not continue living in perpetual fear, abandoning their lands, watching their culture disintegrate under the weight of mounting terror and desperation. The shamans prepared the warriors spiritually through 3 days of fasting, ritual purification, and ceremonies invoking ancestral protection and supernatural assistance against evil. They painted the hunters' bodies with sacred symbols using pigments derived from plants, minerals, and animal blood believed to possess protective properties. Weapons were blessed and enhanced with special preparations. Arrow tips dipped in poison extracted from specific plants, spear shafts wrapped with blessed leather, and shields reinforced with prayers woven into every layer of construction. Each warrior carried amulets containing herbs and stones imbued with spiritual power. The hunting party consisted of 20 men, chosen for their skill, courage, and spiritual purity according to traditional customs governing sacred warfare. They departed at dawn, carrying provisions for several days, tracking equipment and materials for establishing camps in the wilderness away from vulnerable communities. Following the tracks from previous attacks, they moved steadily eastward toward the rocky caves where the trail had previously disappeared into darkness. The lead tracker, a man named Kalfu, renowned for his extraordinary perceptual abilities, noticed subtle signs invisible to less experienced eyes observing the landscape. Broken grass stems, disturbed earth, scratches on rocks, and territorial markings suggested the beast maintained a hunting range covering vast territory efficiently. The pattern indicated intelligence rather than random animal behavior, suggesting they faced something far more dangerous than a simple predator operating on instinct. As they approached the cave system, the air grew noticeably colder despite the afternoon sun blazing overhead in cloudless skies typical of the season. An unnatural silence enveloped the area, no birds singing, no insects buzzing, only the wind whistling through rock formations creating eerie melodies. Fifth, legacy of the beast. The warriors established a defensive position outside the cave entrance, building barriers from rocks and fallen timber while maintaining clear sight lines across approaches. They prepared fire pits, gathered materials for torches, and reviewed their coordinated attack strategy repeatedly until every man understood his role perfectly. As sunset approached, painting the sky in familiar crimson hues that now signified danger rather than beauty, they heard sounds emanating from deep underground. Heavy footfalls echoed through stone corridors, growing louder with each passing moment, accompanied by a low rumbling that vibrated through the earth. The beast emerged at the precise moment the sun touched the horizon, its massive form silhouetted against the dying light, creating an image forever. Standing nearly 12 feet tall, covered in dark matted fur, with powerful limbs ending in those terrible claws they had tracked across miles. Its head was massive and broad, featuring a short snout filled with teeth designed for rending flesh, rather than the grinding molars of herbivores. The eyes glowed with that described amber luminescence, fixing upon the warriors with an intelligence that suggested awareness beyond typical animal comprehension. The battle that followed would be recounted in stories for generations, becoming a foundational legend within the cultural memory of the people. Arrows flew through darkening air, some finding targets in the creature's thick hide, others bouncing harmlessly off what seemed like armor beneath the fur. The beast moved with terrifying speed despite its size, scattering warriors like leaves before a storm, its claws raking through shields and leather armor. 3 men fell in the initial assault, their sacrifice buying time for others to regroup and implement alternative tactics not originally planned. Kalfu, demonstrating why he was considered the greatest hunter of his generation, maneuvered close enough to drive a blessed spear directly into the creature's throat. The beast roared in pain and fury, thrashing violently. But the poison began working, slowing its movements as the warriors pressed their coordinated advantage. After what seemed like hours, but was perhaps only minutes of desperate combat, the beast finally collapsed, its enormous body shaking the earth. The warriors, bloodied and exhausted, stood in stunned silence, unable to fully comprehend they had actually defeated something that seemed invincible and supernatural. Examination of the corpse revealed anatomical features, suggesting it was not entirely mythological, but perhaps a species long thought extinct, surviving in hidden places. The shamans declared it was indeed partially spiritual, a guardian spirit corrupted and transformed into something monstrous through unknown circumstances or ancient curses. The warriors returned to the village bearing proof of their victory, the beast's head and claws as trophies demonstrating their courage and skill. The celebration lasted 3 days, with feasting, dancing, and storytelling as the community processed their collective trauma through traditional cultural expressions. In the following months, life gradually returned to normal patterns as people reclaimed abandoned fields, children played freely again, and the constant fear dissipated. However, the legend remained, woven into the cultural fabric, serving as both historical record and moral instruction for future generations to remember. The village established new traditions commemorating the hunt, annual ceremonies honoring the fallen warriors, and maintaining vigilance against unknown dangers lurking beyond the familiar. The beast's remains were preserved in a sacred place, studied by shamans seeking to understand the boundary between natural and supernatural. Neighboring communities learned of the victory, and Nahuel's leadership became legendary across the Pampas, with his village becoming a regional center for cooperation. The story spread through oral tradition, changing slightly with each retelling, yet maintaining its essential truth about courage confronting fear and mystery. Decades later, when Spanish colonizers arrived with their own superstitions, religions, and explanations for natural phenomena, they encountered these stories from indigenous peoples. Some dismissed them as primitive mythology, while others wondered if elements of truth lay buried beneath layers of cultural interpretation and translation. Archaeological evidence discovered centuries later would reveal unusual bones in cave systems matching traditional descriptions from indigenous accounts with surprising accuracy. Scientists debated classifications, speculated about extinct megafauna, and considered possibilities that challenged established understanding of regional natural history and prehistoric populations. The legend of the Pampas beast became intertwined with Argentina's cultural identity, representing the mysterious frontier, the courage of early inhabitants, and respect. It reminded generations that the land held secrets, that history contained mysteries defying simple explanations, and that some truths transcended rational analysis. Today, visitors to the Pampas sometimes report strange tracks, unexplained sounds at sunset, and feelings of being watched from the gathering darkness across endless grasslands. Whether these represent actual phenomena, psychological projections, or cultural memory manifesting physically remains debated among believers, skeptics, and those who simply wonder with respect. The beast of the Pampas remains one of ancient Argentina's most compelling mysteries, bridging the gap between mythology and historical reality in fascinating ways. This tale reminds us that our ancestors faced genuine terrors requiring extraordinary courage, and their experiences shaped cultural traditions surviving into our modern world. At Tales Labyrinth, we're dedicated to bringing these forgotten stories to light, honoring the people who lived them and preserving their legacy. If you enjoyed this journey into Argentina's mysterious past, please like this video, share it with others who appreciate historical mysteries, and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts about the Pampas beast. Do you believe such creatures existed, or were they symbolic representations of natural dangers? What other ancient mysteries would you like Tales Labyrinth to explore in future videos? Thank you for watching, and remember that history's greatest mysteries often hide in the spaces between legend and fact, waiting for curious minds. Until our next adventure through the labyrinth of time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the spirit of discovery alive. From all of us at Tales Labyrinth, farewell until we meet again in another forgotten corner of our shared human past.